Hello and welcome. Today I've got this XTR M950 rear derailleur. It's the XTR group that came out after the initial M900 group. So we're going to dismantle it and I'm going to clean it. I don't think I've ever cleaned this one. I've had the I think it was the M952. I can't remember the difference between the two. Could be the hanger bolt on the derailleur. I have to check that out. So let's begin. Let's start off by taking off the small parts. So we're going to take off this barrel adjuster. Take off the anchor bolt. Not a big fan of this derailleur, I have to admit, because I don't know, it just looks dull. Compared to the first XTR derailleur, that looks a little bit more fantastic. Let's remove the jockey wheel bolts. We're going to use a number 3. Take off the bolts. We can now go on the other side. Take off the other one. This one still has that plastic cover that goes at the back of the top knuckle. So to take this off, we're going to remove this bolt right here to take off the bottom pivot from the bottom knuckle, sorry. It's probably a number 5. Indeed it is. Just remove this bolt. It was extremely tight, but got it off in the end. We could remove this stopper here, but we'll do that after. Oops, it's come out. Okay, yeah. Well, I've not worked on this. I can tell straight away. So on here you have some kind of like a spacer. Put it on the side. It's accumulated quite a lot of junk or debris. Sorry. So on that there was a seal as well. There was the coil spring. Didn't quite catch what side that was on when I took it off. And the another bolt. We're going to remove the stopper bolt. Okay, next we're going to work on the top knuckle. I'm going to take off this B tension screw here. This screw is probably made out of titanium, but I'm not sure. I haven't checked that. Okay, now we're going to take off this clip that's at the back here. Going to need something flat. Now this should just come off. It will snap back though suddenly. There you go. So we're going to take off that first plate. I think the seal's probably on this. I can't see it. You're going to have this coil spring. You can see this one's actually quite rusted. Yeah, got it off. Let's see if we can pull this out. It's too hard. I managed to take it out. It was just rusty, stuck. Oh yeah, and there's a seal here to take off. We'll do that now. There you go. Right, well I think that's everything on this derailleur. Obviously it needs to be serviced, as you could see from the rust and the debris on both pivots. So not functioning the best as it could do. I'm going to give everything a wash. We're going to wipe everything. I'll probably just leave it sitting in some soapy water and degrease if I need to. Although it's fairly dry actually, more than greasy. And then we'll re-grease and rebuild everything again. Finally, this took forever to clean. I ran out of degreaser while I was doing it, and so I had to scrub everything manually, which took quite a bit of time. But I got there in the end. I just want to point out while I was doing this, when I was removing the bolt at the back of this jockey wheel part, or the jockey wheel cage, there's a very, very, very thin, there's a very thin washer located just behind the bolt itself, and you don't want to lose that, I guess, because it's spacing, and it fits just fits over like this on the top, and then you put the bolt through. The sealed pulley, but I thought it was interesting just to open it up and add some grease onto the bearings. It was actually quite dirty inside, and it was no wonder it wasn't spinning freely anymore. So I've popped it open, and I'm going to put a bit of grease, and then we'll put the seal back on top of it, the cover. So the cover, you just need to get a knife, very thin knife, and you can actually pop this up. So I'm going to go ahead now and grease all the pivots and the parts in preparation for the assembly. I suggest you use some marine grease or some Teflon finish line, or I'm going to use a mixture, a combination of Motorex grease and this. So I'll be adding some more grease as I go along. I'm going to put some finish line on these bearings, see what that says, and let's put that cap back on. Put the cover, I think that's good. Right, so now we're going to work on the bottom knuckle and put in the jockey wheel cage, as well as the pivoting bolt that runs through here. So we're going to put the seal back on top of this. As I mentioned before, we grab the bolt and that very, very thin washer, and we're going to put that in place. And so that bolt is going to now go through here. It's quite a tight fit, but it does go in eventually. I'm going to now take this coil spring. You'll see on one tip it's short, on the other end it's longer. The shorter side, I believe, goes into this side of the jockey wheel cage. Now there's a left and a right here. You'll see on the left is more tension, and on the right hole it's going to be less tensioned. I'm going to stick mine into the right hole. Now on the end of that bolt there was a bushing or slash spacer, and you'll see closely here there's a on the other side there's basically like a ridge running through. So I'm going to put that on the top. So now the other tip of this coil spring is going to go inside here. You'll see there's a hole there at the back. You want to aim for that. Okay, I've got it. Now we're going to grab our number 5 Allen key, and this bolt here needs to be bolted down. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tension this spring, and we're going to screw down that small bolt that goes in front of the stopper, which is right there. Easiest way to do that will be to hold this open once you've tensioned. So we're turning it like this, and it's actually easier probably to put something in front of this. I'm going to try and do it with my hand now to block this while you're working on that. So I'm going to aim now for this little bolt to go in front of it. Okay, I think I've got that. I'm going to tighten now. And you can now let go. I'm now going to work on the top knuckle. I'm going to grab the seal and pop that through. You can definitely put a little bit of grease on that if you want. And I'm going to now push the hanger bolt that runs through it. So I'm going to grab the coil spring. You can definitely put some grease on this. It looks fairly symmetrical on both sides, so I don't think it's very important what side you put it in. There's a hole on the back of this top knuckle here for the other tip of that spring, so we're going to pop that through and aim for that. Okay, I think that's inside. You can now take the B tension / stopper plate, and the other tip of that spring is going to go into the hole. Okay, now we're going to grab a 2.5 Allen key wrench, or you can use number 2. At least you want one that's fairly long. You can use anything else that has this type of shape, or a plier to tension this spring whilst getting this part right here in front of the stopper, which is right there. And then we need to put the clip in, so we're going to need to have a plier at hand to be able to do that. So I'm going to stick the Allen key into the limit screw hole. We're going to push down at the same time, and then we're going to use our hand to leverage and turn it towards that stopper. I'm getting there. You need to push at the same time while you're doing this. Okay, I just felt a little grab. Okay, that's better. Okay, now once you've got that nicely to the end, hold this down. You don't want this to smack into your finger. You can grab the clip that's going to go into the wedge of the hanger bolt underneath here. And now we're going to use a plier to push that down. And now we can let go. Put back the cover if you still have yours. And we can put that B limit screw back on. Right, so we're going to put the G pulley towards the top. It's quite cool here how they have some kind of copper. You can take it off before you could. So on this derailleur they have a tiny little copper washer. Now let's take the other one. The barrel adjuster. Okay, so there we have it, a finished. That's much smoother now with with the finish line inside those bearings. Definitely worth doing. So there you have it, finished. Not my favourite derailleur, if I have to be honest. Definitely functional, but a couple of negatives from the looks of it. Just like on other Shimano derailleurs as well as Campagnolo derailleurs, when you have this bolt here at the back, it seems to grind into I think that's what happens anyway, it seems to grind into this jockey wheel cage, and then eventually this becomes loose, especially if you're not cleaning it, which is pretty likely. And also the paint on here, because it gets scratched, it becomes pretty ugly very fast, unlike the older Shimano derailleurs that, well, if they got scratched on the actual, well, the bare metal, let's say, you could at least polish that out if you really wanted to. So there you have it. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helped you service your XTR Rear derailleur. And until next time, peace out.